I had these ideas, and when you have ideas in your mind, I can't speak them. I'm trying to tell them that I need this effect, or I need this, I need that.
You know the effect, but you can't verbalize it.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. So imagine trying to create something, and you know that the tools are out there, but you have no way of explaining what you're looking for.
It's gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
The crystallization of a vision can seem like an impossible task. Taking what you see in your head and turning it into reality is a universal struggle that the majority wrestle with. Trying to create something out of the ether and wishing our ideas into existence. It is difficult to allow another inside your head to rework your thoughts and ideas, allowing them to raise your baby with the hopes that they can do a better job that is beyond your capabilities. Trusting that their talent can complement your dream. There are modern-day alchemists who work in the medium of creation, taking those thoughts and ideas in your head, shaping them until they are something beautiful, turning that caterpillar in your mind into a beautiful butterfly. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome in our very own Andrew Santiago.
Very own.
I appreciate it, guys.
To talk about the suffering of a podcast producer. Andrew has a unique ability to turn the ordinary into magic. And that's why we wanted to have you in. And we were just talking about you on Instagram Live tonight.
I appreciate it.
And if you notice, we don't have headphones on today because we don't have a man behind the glass, so we don't have to talk to anybody.
I actually broke through the glass. Okay, so we don't even have a glass anymore in studio. I just broke right through it after the IG Live.
Drew, how do we... Oh, that's right. You're right here. How do we sound?
Drew, how do we
sound? It's tough. I'm trying my best.
But, you know, we've been looking for a way to get you in here because you have certain sufferings that go on within your business that people don't realize. You're like a hairdresser in the media world where people just come in and say, make me look beautiful.
Yeah, what can I do to make it shine?
Yes.
How do I shine?
And you just make it work. I've done that to you several times. Before we get into anything, let's get into our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We buy our cars from Toyota because we really don't trust anybody. So go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. So Drew, we've known each other for a little time, and
yeah.
You know, let's go back to the beginning of how we met. It was a very serendipitous type of.
We got big words
today. It was a
today.
Prairie Fire episode 9, serendipitous.
Hashtag this for the we got to throw that one out for De Palma. But Mike and I were doing something for Blue Magazine.
Yes.
And you actually, I think I started talking to Katia first because you were in the room recording.
That is correct.
He was busy that day.
And Katia and I got into it about, you know,
you guys had just came back from Florida.
Yeah, well,
yeah, we did.
You guys had just came back from Florida.
Yeah, and there were all of our friends. Like, we knew everybody there. We got to talking to, you were in the room recording, so I was talking to Katia, and I was kind of breaking her chops a little bit about, she's talking about women have it worse, and I just grabbed onto it, and I said, you know, my wife gave birth to 2 kids, and I didn't feel a damn thing. Everybody says childbirth, and it just, boom.
I said, listen, the kids came out of me first, and it didn't feel that bad.
Yeah. Well, we had a little bit more enjoyment when they came out. It was a little bit easier to kind of go through with us. With most of us, anyway. I don't say everybody.
Not me. I faked every orgasm.
You fake?
Still faking it.
Yeah, fake them.
So girls could get pregnant from spit.
Oh, man. Damn.
So,
you know we have like a certain mark before we get into the show.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Way to blow right past that.
As the producer, I'm going to be fixing that. Thank you, Mike.
But you came out of the room and we met for the first time, and you said, and we just started talking about audio equipment. I talked about the podcast and and you asked me what kind of microphones I use.
Immediately.
And, you said, well, the owner and operator of A&J Media Studios. And you showed me a picture, you showed me all this stuff, and I was like, wow, that's something pretty interesting. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, the audience knows way too much about Mike and I, so why don't you tell them?
They do know a good amount about. And every week that you guys tune in, it's even better because all the work that's being put in, we appreciate.
Well,
so
I've said it numerous times that my relaxed time, my fun time in doing this podcast is when the lights go on, the cameras start, and I can just... because all the work's done.
Yes.
But when the lights go on, that's when he has to work.
Right. It's the reverse for you. When the lights go on, that's when your stress level goes up.
Yeah. That's when I have to turn around and say, okay, well, it's anybody who's working behind the board. First off, if they're really working with your show, really working with your podcast, they're going to turn around and they should be taking notes. That's just going to make your life a little bit easier in the future. Because realistically, it could be little small things. Maybe, you know, we all have the the scratch or something that we
That's
could
my
kind of
thing.
switch up.
So that's my thing. I'll have these little itches come up. I'll itch my eyebrow.
Fix my headphones.
Yeah. So when you see those things, the difference is we kind of cut live. So when you see those things, you really have to be prepared. And then once you get used to listening to people and you know how they're going to end their sentence, especially if it's somebody new that you just met, then you're just kind of like, okay, you have to kind of catch the rhythm of speech.
Well, so I know a little bit about that because when we used to be on audio and I would have to go in and edit with Mike and I knew everything. I knew the speech patterns. I could almost like read the Matrix.
Yes.
I could see everything. And I imagine over time that happens with you. But where did you start?
Well, it all started truth in my heart. Music artist, making music, making songs.
Seen
right?
the videos.
You've seen the videos, right? So I love it. And somewhere around the age of about 18, 19, I realized I didn't have the right vernacular to speak to an editor behind the board. I just couldn't. I had these ideas, and when you have ideas in your mind, I can't speak them. I'm trying to tell them that I need this effect, or I need this, I need that.
You know the effect, but you can't verbalize it.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. So imagine trying to create something, and you know that the tools are out there, but you have no way of explaining what you're looking for.
But you're a Patterson kid, right?
Yeah.
So did you get the echo? Like I want the echo of a bullet off of the building.
Echo, delay, all this. Listen, Patterson. Listen, I've lived in plenty of places.
Sounds of sirens around you.
That's Patterson's home bringing. Patterson, Wayne, and Wanacue, Haskell for a little bit. I've actually moved around for quite a little bit, so I always give a shout out to all my cities because they'll be like, well, you lived in Patterson for this time. You lived in Haskell. I've seen parts of New Jersey all over. So from the country to the city, you get different experiences and different lives. Right. So
I didn't hear any country in any of those towns. What is it, Haskell country?
Haskell's a little country.
From Patterson?
Yeah.
From Patterson?
There's like one tree in Patterson.
Haskell to Wanacue, it was a big change. If you go from kids walking into the bodega in the corners to all of a sudden there's kids riding bikes, going fishing, crab fishing, something I've never done before, where the mayor pulls up and he's just like, hey, where you guys going? Oh, here you go. Go have some fun. Here goes some passes. Go fishing. That's never happened in Patterson. Regardless of who's the mayor, no offense to any mayor. When was the last time a mayor pulled up to any person in Patterson and was just like, here goes some fishing passes. Go behind Kennedy and have fun. Well,
that's pretty cool. I never thought of it. I never thought of it that way. But in a lot of ways,
kids bike riding to bike stealing.
Yeah. But in a lot of ways, the people in Patterson have a little bit extra advantage because there's so many programs, and I've seen this firsthand. Yes. There's so many different programs that are set up for the youth in Patterson, and it's sort of to keep them out of the bad element of Patterson. And there's funds available, there's financing available. How did? Again, I've seen the video, and it's sort of like a color me bad type of. That was the wife beater.
All right, so first thing first, that was my first ever music video.
Shot illegally in Patterson.
I did it all freehand. Shout out to my boy Johnny. I'm gonna give him a shout out. Johnny was the first one to say, "Hey, I'll go with you," while we were driving, and he was holding the camera. And I had this idea, but rather than hesitate and wait on it, I said, "Why not just do it?" I mean, why wait? Right? I have the tools. I have a camera, right? What else do I need? I have a camera and I have a song.
It's pretty damn good for your first shot out.
It's not bad, right?
No, it's not.
Fun thing about that video, too, the way I was able to kind of lip sync the whole thing, I was playing the music through my phone in my back pocket the whole time.
High tech.
Yeah, well, listen, I found a way, right? Because I was like, well, how?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, so I put it right in my back pocket. And if you notice, all right, anybody who watches the video, if you notice, there's a scene where I'm sitting on the bridge by the Burger King.
Yes.
Behind me is my phone the whole time, just playing out. It is what it is. I made it happen. But I had to learn how to speak, basically. I had to learn how to speak what I was doing. At the time, I was actually with a group. And it was very different because the producer at the time didn't really support me learning how to record or edit.
Well, isn't that the way of most people in charge? You do things a lot differently. I will say that. But most people in charge want to kind of keep the people in the dark a little bit, and sort of solidifies their value.
Yeah, so you don't take their job.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, yes, I could understand that. If you know how to edit, then what's to stop you from saying, hey, I need hiring an editing engineer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, at the time when we were in a group, I was like, this is for the betterment of the team. If somebody knows how to edit and clean up the tracks, then that's a win. Now our tracks sound better. Now the music sounds better. Now we could produce more. So after a while, obviously it clashes a little bit. What do? It was great. Shake hands, walk away. That's it. And then I started my own thing.
Well, what was the age when you walked away from, say, quote unquote, music business?
Oh,
You're never left the music
yeah, I never
business.
really, I don't
Right.
ever really say I left the
As a
music
vocalist,
business.
let's say.
As a vocalist, I kind of strayed away from doing shows where people would say, hey, we want you on the show. We want you to come perform live. I got to the age where I was like, well, I've done quite a few shows. I've done parades. I've done festivals. I've done all these things. How much?
Mhm.
Now, the moment you turn around and you tell somebody how much, what happens?
They're like, well, you're not that good.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, you get your promotion. If you sell 20 tickets, you'll make this much, and this is how much money you get in your pocket. I was like, but you just told me that for your venue, I did great. Being fact that you want me back, right? So if you want somebody back,
They did a
You're
good
gonna
job.
pay.
Yeah.
clearly I entertained the crowd that was there. That's all it is.
So you grew up and I know this from speaking to you so much, that your father was a police officer.
Yes, over 20 years, Patterson PD.
And so you fit into our group. We're not inclusive to police officers, but
That's why we let him in our group, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
families are always our extended families.
Yes.
Always become part of our little group. So it was a good fit when we finally came to this studio. But you move on from where did you go to school for audio engineering?
Yes, I graduated from New York Institute of Audio Research. It was the big, hey, I'm like stepping out on my own. I'm going to learn this either way. And I went for 9 months in New York, going back and forth. And it was probably one of the best 9 months when it came to music and meeting people and shaking hands that you could do. I love New York.
So you fit in there, because a lot of times you want to do something, you get involved in it, and it's just not for you.
No, I've enjoyed every minute. Going when you go out there and you're like in the city, that's one thing I love about New York. It's alive. So every time you're going in, you're like, oh, this person's doing this. There's never anything dry happening. We were out there just a couple weeks ago. We did Podfest, right? And you see all these movements, Elmo's walking around you and all this other nonsense. And you're like, only in New York. And I always find it interesting because look how many talented people between New York and New Jersey live, right? All talented. And they all have this idea. And I'm like, we live right next to New York.
Everybody
People
believes.
move to New York to become a star.
Exactly.
Well, there's a mass of people in New York who believe that they're talented.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the difference. And
Like a
I've seen some
cowboy?
real talent in some of the shows that happen in Central Park. I've seen some real talent in there, but I've also seen Elmo with the hat flipped back and the underwear sticking out of the back.
New York is tough. At the end of the day, New York is tough. But if you can make it,
They'll chew you up and spit you out in New York if you're.
well, that's the thing about the industry in general, right? The Suffering Podcast. We're going on over 100 episodes, right?
We're up to 106 recorded.
106 recorded. We say it all the time. Whenever there's an IG Live, you guys say it both all the time. Most episodes don't make it past a certain number, make it past 6 or past 8. To really make it, you have to keep pushing. There's no stopping. You have to keep pushing.
Right.
So even the people in New York, whether artists or whatever it is, you have to keep pushing.
But there's oddities. There's oddities in that entertainment business. And I'm talking entertainment like the people who walk around Central Park, or not Central Park, the Times Square in the Superman costumes. I was in there a couple weeks ago, and I'm on the phone with my youngest boy, and I'm like, hey, there's Spider-Man taking a piss in the corner.
You get the naked cowboy over there too, right?
Naked cowboy, the naked
still
cowboy.
around?
Yeah, he's still around.
Listen, not for nothing. Think about
That
that.
guy's like 60 years old.
But that man came to New York. And he was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play a guitar in a cowboy hat, my underwear, and a pair of boots. And he became a New York attraction where people are like, oh, look, it's the naked cowboy.
In the dead of winter too.
He made
Yeah.
it to the what was that? I Want to Be a Rock Star video called Nickelback.
Nickelback.
He was in the Nickelback video. Yeah.
So if you like, it's that same drive and dedication that people are willing to do something as crazy as that, but he still, technically speaking, made it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
You think about that gimmick, it's a tough gimmick to do.
It caught on.
As Alicia Keys says, if you can make it there, you can make it
You
anywhere.
got that right.
Hey.
Well, no, that was the best singer ever that
Frank
came out.
Sinatra.
Don't even start.
Frank
That-
Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra.
You
Don't
can
even start.
Make it here. Come on, it's played at every Yankees game.
That doesn't mean anything.
How many championships do they have?
You know, I
it's
once
got to
had-
mean something.
I once
How many
had
Elvis songs that they played at Yankee
Yeah,
games?
I once had an argument with
you know what it
somebody.
is, Mike? Too little conversation.
I once
a
had
little less conversation.
I once had an argument with somebody who is this. I know this is off topic.
Yes.
Who's better, Bruce Springsteen or Billy Joel? Somebody actually brought that argument up.
Okay.
So in New Jersey, probably Bruce Springsteen.
The
In
boss.
the rest of the country, Bruce Springsteen is nothing. I'm telling you now, he's nothing. Billy Joel is internationally known.
Yes.
And go to one of his concerts, it's an old man whining versus 3 hours of greatest hits. So
Piano Man says it all.
you graduate, and do you jump into a recording studio? Do you get a job?
I opened up mine immediately.
You open up yours. And what was the name?
Immediately when I graduated, I opened up in the front of my deck where I used to live at. I built a room immediately on the side and opened up Silk City. Really, it was Silk City Productions. Silk City Pro. It's what it started as.
I've seen that on a couple of videos.
Silk City Pro. Silk
Yeah.
City Pro Entertainment.
Because as I was looking at this studio, as we were looking to go on video, I did my research on you. I knew
A little bit of research.
I have to.
We're going to steal Silk City Pro from you.
Well, Silk City Productions was already, so shout out to whoever has Silk City Productions. So I went with Silk City Pro Entertainment.
We're Silk City underwear.
Silk City underwear. It's so smooth, you have to wear it.
Yes, you
Okay.
just glide off the.
Yeah, it just goes. It's so smooth.
Slide off the chairs.
Now you start this new business. What is there's always an immediate lesson that you learn that you couldn't see coming.
An immediate lesson.
There's always an immediate. Whenever you're starting something out on your own, there's always an immediate
Something
lesson.
you didn't think about.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Oof. I think it was something crazy. I think the first lesson that I ever truly learned was probably it's dumb, but the window in a studio.
I know everybody can't see it, but there's a window between us and
The control room.
I guess it would be control room.
Yes.
And that's how you can watch the action going on, make sure your cuts are right.
Listen, there's a few things I could tell you that I learned off the bat as recording and editing and working with people. There's so many things off the bat, but I think one of my most it was a silly thing, but for some odd reason, we're building the booth. We have everything right. The door closes and everything's good. And then I realized I was like, well, how am I supposed to see them? Nothing on it. I went to school. I knew that they had a window. We had everything. So we did put a window in, but the window was this is how you know it's one of the first studios. It was literally a window. You know, one that you could lift up and
So you like talk to them.
You're like 227 talking.
Yeah, it was just like, hey guys, we're good. But you know, the first studio I built was actually really meant for me to record my first album. Well, not my first album, but like my first Silk City album. That's really what it was meant for. So I was teaching Johnny behind the board to work to hit record. I was learning, even though they showed you proper mic placement, you're dealing with different kind of mics, different kind of equipment, different kind of positions. And then you go through and you start the editing process. And the editing process, you start really understanding what's going on. How come there's clicks, these pops, headphone leakage coming through? And you're like, whoa, I need to do it again. And now you're like, man, all right, go back in there. Go back in the session, hit record, da-da-da. Or even worse, when you lay down a good track and somebody forgot to hit record. That's probably even the worst thing. It was like, so wait a sec, there's something wrong.
Yeah, we've had that on podcasts
Yeah, I
before.
was just gonna say. I was just gonna bring that up.
People forgot to hit record. There was one time I remember, and Johnny, I know he's going to watch this. I make fun of him all the time. Johnny, I had him set up the mic. I'm like, go in there, set up the studio. I go into the studio. I can't hear him. Or pardon me, he can't hear me. He's like, you're just coming in really low. Da, 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 da. So I take a look at the mic, and he had it backwards.
Okay.
I just looked. I
It
was like,
happens.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Well, isn't that what you've become now? Is a problem solver.
Yeah.
Because there's always problems. This cord came unplugged. You forgot to switch over here. You forgot to put this setting here, and all you become is this giant problem solver.
Well, when you can fix any problem, that's a great thing. Anytime. I really kind of see what we do more as creation, more as creating. I've always said it. I believe it because when you guys come down with an idea of what you want to do for your next show, it's something new every time.
By the way, the ideas that filter into you are nothing like what him and I talk about.
It's something completely different.
We had one the other day, which I think is a good episode.
Okay.
I think it's a great episode because everybody does it. But
What is it?
It's the suffering of poop.
The suffering of poop.
Everybody poops.
Well, that's like a Beavis and Butthead that we could definitely pull that
The
episode.
suffering
in.
of flatulence.
Now listen, okay, so listen, everybody who's I want to throw this out there. What we could probably try to do for that episode, which would be really cool, if we just animated the whole episode.
That would be cool.
Like if we just animated the whole episode. Like we didn't even do like the whole thing, we just do full on animations. Like 3D animations, and it's just you guys.
You're giving someone an idea now.
Well, listen, you heard it here first on the Suffering Podcast. So,
podcast hijackers out there that we know.
Yeah, we know all too well.
but you know it would be hot.
Was that Silk City? Was it profitable to the part where you could? Was that your full-time job?